a social justice leader with a vision, and a vision that enlivens you and revs you up. But when you go to communicate it to other people, you don't find it having the traction that you really desire. And it can frustrate you to see that other people are not getting on board quite as easily as you would hoped. And you know that if it doesn't get traction, it's going to be harder and harder for you to be the social justice leader you want to be. But most importantly, it's going to be harder and harder for you to see that vision through to the end. Because if you're not able to gain traction and have teammates, it's not going to work. We all know that people don't change systems, movements do. And so groups of people and allies and teammates are essential. And if your vision doesn't have traction, the social justice impact you want to have simply will not work. If this is the case for you, listen in. I'm Dr. Rita. I'm a consultant, a social justice consultant, and a coach. And I wrote an article about hidden hierarchies in our way of thinking and in our belief system. And hidden hierarchies are part of what may be undermining your vision. Here's more or less the rationale. What makes a vision strong is that it has collective power and collective will, which means it stands in something greater that you believe is possible for a group of people, for collectives, for communities and groups of people beyond, that allows them to see something that's possible, to peep a new reality beyond what they currently see as possible. Well, the easiest way to undermine a social justice vision is to have a hidden hierarchy inside of it. Why? Well, because white supremacy is a hierarchy in and of itself. So anytime there's a hidden hierarchy inside of your vision, it will come across as, to the people who hear it, as inauthentic and not worth following. So in an article that I wrote, there are 8 hidden hierarchies that I talk about, and they're something that you can look at and test your vision against. Number 1, I over we. If your vision is your personal vision, and I think we all should have a personal vision, it's absolutely fine for you to speak from the I. Absolutely own it, make sure it's in alignment with your core and who you are and who you want to be. And if that's the case, wonderful. But every vision that is a collective vision has to stand the test of the collective. It has to stand the test of the group that is there to implement it. And if you are using an I vision to try to move and mobilize a group of people, that will come across as something inauthentic. So mind the I versus the we part of your vision. Another hierarchy, hidden hierarchy, can be mind over heart or body. This kind of goes back to the philosophy of Descartes, the I think therefore I am. If you start believing that the mind is more important than the heart and the body, there's a feel that your vision will have. It will come across as fake, brainy, academic, and visions have to be alive. They need to have a feeling and a core that's at the body and the heart level. Visions that work are visceral and alive. Visions that work help people feel more alive. So check if embedded in your vision is a hierarchy of mind over body, or if it is as visceral and if it makes you feel alive. Because if it makes you feel alive, chances are it'll make your listener feel alive as well. Blame over responsibility. 3. Blame over responsibility. This is something that is very common, a lot more common than many of us want to accept. And if you're a recovering codependent like I am, blame may be your default, and maybe it was default even in your family. Well, anytime that we choose blame over responsibility, what we're doing is we're giving up on our own power. Responsibility has us stand from a place of, this is my power, this is what I can do, this is what I'm going to stand for. Blame instead tends to put us in the place of victimhood. And I notice that often where blame or responsibility shows up for me is when I have poor boundaries. So a place where we can take more responsibility is when we have clearer boundaries with ourselves and what works for us and others. If your vision has some poor boundaries in it, it's gonna give a little bit of a slimy, blamey feel in it. If you're not coming from a powerful place of who you are and what you're capable of in your life. It'll give people a feel of victimization, either of you or the people you want to impact. And that stuff just is not inspiring at all. No one wants to be a victim, even if we often have felt victimized. Another one is for tasks over people. This is very common in the professional arena. It's become the norm in professional culture. And it's this do approach where the timetable and the management of promises and the management of the timelines kind of comes before everything else, and the management of timelines are often used to inspire and motivate people. Well, I would argue that's motivation, not inspiration, because people aren't inspired by deadlines. We're just a little pushed through them. And oftentimes deadlines don't have us feel alive. Not a chance that we call them dead lines and not really lifelines. Like, they tend to have us feel a sense of artificial adrenaline that doesn't necessarily reflect who we want to be in the world and how we want to show up. 5, safety over honesty. This happens predominantly in white spaces. We have a tendency to want to feel safe, and by safe we mean comfortable. And so what happens is that when we want that comfort, we forsake oftentimes what we are capable of. We forsake the ways we can grow, the courage that we can grow into. We kind of truncate our own opportunities for growth, for leadership, and for surrender. Control over uncertainty. If your vision is more about controlling people so that you can be comfortable versus being willing to create a circumstance that's completely new where the unknown will also teach you some things. Make sure your vision isn't so small, I would add, and so controlling that it leaves no space for mystery. Because life has a little bit of magic and a little bit of mystery no matter what happens. And so there's always a part of the vision that life will teach you to live. Make sure that when you create your vision, you're leaving space for life to be life. You're leaving space for life to surprise you. And that your vision is not so contained and controlled that it's simply a small-minded version of the future. Because chances are, no one likes to be controlled, and no one wants to stand for a vision that is just about a bunch of people feeling controlled and not having the freedom to really be themselves. 6, performance over authenticity. So this is a tricky one, especially in our current social media era. Hey, I'll tell on myself. I started doing videos a few months ago, and I think I'm a lot more capable of being honest and authentic on it now than I was 2 or 3 months. It's hard. It's hard to be authentic online, especially when there's so much that we see that is so polished. And we start criticizing ourselves by how polished other people look, right? Like, it's really easy to be inauthentic online because there's so much of that. And so, again, though, people can sense it. People can sense if you're not really truly being yourself. People can sense if you're driven by something other than being authentic. And so if what you're doing is performative, if you're really worried about what other people think of you, and you're measuring yourself against what other people think of you over and over and over, well then, that's not really going to work. It won't inspire. It may motivate you, but it won't inspire you or others. Here's the last one. This is number 8. I'm pretty sure I skipped one because I'm not sure. I don't think I made the sequence right, but trust me, there are 8. Saviorism over equity. If you're a social justice leader, you are committed to a world that works for everyone. Whether you're trying to do it in the criminal justice system or the family policing system or the child welfare system, the juvenile justice system, the education system, or a combination of all of those, right? What you want to see is a better world for a lot more people than are well off right now. When you're a social justice heart person, injustice breaks your heart. So ultimately, that's what you really want. Well, oftentimes though, those of us who get in the social justice space, and I know this because I was one of them, don't get in it for all the right reasons. So oftentimes we get in the social justice space because we feel victims ourselves. At some point in time, we felt we were victims, whether we were victims of our family, or we are survivors of physical abuse, sexual abuse, some kind of mistreatment. And so what happens is that then we go to bat to make a world where others are not victimized the way we were victimized, or to protect anyone who could possibly go through what we went through. Now, while that is a noble reason to get involved in social justice, I got news for you. It is not going to last long. It's not a vision that will inspire. Because if your vision is grounded in saviorism, it gives a sense of superiority where you believe you know what's right for people because you're superior to other people. You may not intend to do that, but at its core, codependency and all its branches have that at its root. It basically is us trying to feel superior to other people by telling them how to lead their lives. Equity is something different. In equity, we all come to the table and decide what is needed, and to each is given according to their needs. There is no sense of superiority in equity. There's a sense of community where we tend to the needs of all. So check your vision. Is it coming from a place of saviorism or is it coming from a place of equity? Chances are, if you are the person being served and that vision starts feeling a little, ooh, it's rooted in saviorism. I hope this was helpful for you. If you're interested, again, the 8 ways to check your vision, to check that hierarchy is not embedded in your vision. Mind over heart, blame over responsibility, I over we, tasks over people, safety over honesty, control over uncertainty, performance over authenticity, saviorism over equity. 8 aspects of hierarchy that, if they're included in your vision, can kind of contaminate it and give it an icky feeling for whoever hears it. And it can compromise the traction of your message. It just so happens that these 8 hierarchies are also the backbone of white supremacy. Whether you intend to or not, it's the water we all navigate in. And I happen to have written an article called 8 Aspects of White Supremacy Culture, kind of taking Okun's article of white supremacy culture and organizations a step further. If you're interested in the article, drop me a note with your email. I'll be happy to add you to my mailing list, which is who the people who are added to my mailing list get a free copy of the article. And there's a link in the comments. Feel free to connect with me and have book a conversation. Let's book a call if you want to talk about a little bit more your vision and what you're seeing in terms of how you'd like to improve it so that it has more attraction for the people you work with. Take care and good luck.